foam latex prosthetics, the first use is always going to be the best application. This is why for film, prosthetics aren't used over and over. There are several made throughout the shoot, but prosthetics can be quite an investment. Whether it's just for practice, a cosplay, or you just want a really cool Halloween makeup, you probably want to get the most out of your pieces. Here are some tips you can try, but one of these is an absolute must. Some foam latex pieces are on the softer side, and especially the more expensive ones are going to have very thin edges. These are all great features you want in a prosthetic, but it also makes it harder to reuse it over and over. Adding a thin layer of latex on the inside will help to create a barrier and protect the life of your piece. Because when it's thin or really soft, it may want to stay really stuck to your skin and could easily rip during the removal process. The latex is going to make it much easier to remove it, but if you sweat, this is going to make it worse. Since the foam will not be able to absorb that extra moisture, you actually run the risk of sweating the piece off. Though if you still want to try this, just focus the latex on the edges, leaving those thicker parts of the piece untouched. That way, those areas can reinforce the places that need it without turning your mask into a sauna. In most cases, foam latex prosthetics can get a really good hold with acrylic adhesives such as Prosaide or Beta Bond. So chances are you do not need to bring out the big guns like silicone adhesive. Now this isn't going to ruin your prosthetic, it just might glue it a little too well. So you run a higher risk of damaging it when removing. Now again, for my fellow sweaty folks, if silicone adhesives like Telesys work for you, do it. Keep using what works for you. Now, if you can mask edges with a costume or wig, it's best not to cement them down. But don't worry, you don't have to sacrifice looks walking around with raw edges just so you can reuse it. For any visible edges that you want a nice blend, typically stippling Prosaide over the edge and onto the skin is going to blend it really nicely. But the stuff is going to make it harder when you go to remove those edges carefully, and you run a much higher chance of damaging it. So instead of jumping to the Prosaide, I recommend stippling latex on your edges first. So stippling the latex will help seal those edges just like the Prosaide, but it will come up easier. And if you still want to go in with Prosaide, just use that over top of the latex layer. Besides the obvious of taking your time to remove the prosthetic, you're gonna wanna stay away from oil-based removers. Anything where the main ingredient is isopropyl myricate. Since it can be absorbed by the foam, making it to where it doesn't want to stick to your skin the next time you go to apply it. You really want to make sure you're using proper techniques when removing your foam latex prosthetics to minimize damage. Be sure to click the next video to see a detailed walkthrough on how to properly remove your prosthetics.